Why is the mainstream media not talking about one of the most deadliest wars happening in Sudan right now? Because it is just a local African conflict? No, it is a whole geopolitical game involving all the major players, US, Russia, Saudi, UAE, even China. It's super complicated. शुरू से शुरू करते हैं. Now, Sudan gained its independence from British in 1956. But the issue was that internally this country was extremely divided. Mostly in the north, you had Arabs and Muslims. And in the south, you had Africans which followed Christianity and some other traditional religions. But from day one, the power stayed in the north. The south and the other regions were ignored and hence poor. And this imbalance became the foundation of all the wars that Sudan has had. The first civil war lasted 17 years. And it only ended because of a peace deal that promised a little more autonomy to the people in the south. But this peace was broken when their president Jafar Numeri imposed the Sharia law, that is the Islamic law, over the entire country, which led to the second civil war starting in 1983. And this civil war also lasted for 22 years, eventually ending in 2005 with a comprehensive peace agreement, which basically promised a referendum for independence. But South Sudan did not immediately gain independence. It was still part of Sudan for 6 more years. And during those years, a man called as Omar al-Bashir was in power. He known for a lot of his massacres, the most famous one being the Darfur conflict of 2003. Because the gold mine-rich Darfur region is also home to a lot of African tribes that were ignored for decades. So naturally, there was rebellion. But then Bashir was like, I don't want to use my own army to suppress these people. So I will arm the local Arab tribes to suppress the African tribes. And these armed Arabs were called the Janjaweed militias. By 2019, two major things had happened. Number one, South Sudan became an independent country in 2011. But South Sudan and Sudan, they were both awkwardly interdependent because South Sudan had oils and Sudan had pipelines. So if either of these countries fight, the other one suffer. And the second major thing was that the long-term dictator of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, was overthrown. So there was a hope that maybe Sudan will shift towards democracy. But who are we kidding? Then entered two new players. First one, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of the Sudan Armed Forces, the SAF, which is the official army. Now he mostly has control over the northern and the eastern part. And the second one is General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, or Hemeti, head of the Rapid Support Force, which was born out of the Janjaweed militia. तो देखा जाए तो ये दोनों मिलकर गवर्नमेंट चला सकते थे, पर आप इनकी मस्ती देख रहे हो. They have been bombing each other since April 2023. But it is not just a conflict between SAF and RSF. It is actually an international proxy conflict with major players. For example, Egypt supports SAF, the official army, because it wants water security and border stability. UAE just wants money and power, so it is reported to support RSF. Saudi Arabia, kind of neutral, but it's still trying to balance because it wants stability in the Red Sea region. Then Russia, although has officially said that it wants peace in the region and it's neutral, but there have been reports earlier about Russian companies and the Wagner group having links with RSF. And Russia has also been negotiating for a long time for a naval base on the Port Sudan. But how can USA let that happen? So USA is also maintaining its stance that it's neutral, but somehow it is leaning towards Burhan. And what about China? कोई इसको पूछता ही नहीं है साइड लेने के लिए, because वो हमेशा पैसों की साइड लेता है. It has got a lot of its BRI projects going on in Sudan and Africa. Now what about India? Well, India is not directly involved in this international proxy conflict, but it is very much present. Because when the fighting actually broke out in April 2023, India launched its Operation Kaveri to evacuate almost 3,000 Indian nationals out of Sudan. So while majority of the people think that this is just a local African conflict, it is much bigger than that.